Hello, I am your instructor, Chelsea Parker. This is what my face looks like. I thought it would be easier for you, and I guess for me, but mostly for you, if I did a short video lecture about peer review rather than write out a long response. I think that this is a lot more digestible and last semester I did this a lot with my students, video lectures, once we switched to online, and I know they all found it to be a lot easier than just reading on their own. So I'm going to try to do these relatively often. It'll probably be at least like one a week. All right. So I'm going to jump into, mostly I want to address some issues that I saw throughout the peer review and things that we can do better next time. All right. So first, why do we do peer response? One of the most useful aspects of being a part of a writing community is that you have the ability to give and receive feedback on your work. When you're working independently, you don't have that. And this enhances your ability to read and respond critically, make connections, and think through difficult concepts, and collaborate with others, learning from another's experience and views. So first, some things to remember. You're fully qualified for this job. You've been reading for most of your life, and you have opinions. So what I'm really asking you to do in peer response is to state your opinions, but with justifiable reasons attached. So merely saying good or bad doesn't tell the author much, right? Instead, you want to explain why. This is one of the major things, is specificity in peer response is the best sort of tool that you can use to help your peers. In your feedback, you want to point to specific examples in your peer's essay, and that's especially true for the constructive criticism that you're offering. If you're pointing out an issue in the essay that only occurs once, you want to say where that issue is, and then you want to offer suggestions for improvement. So here's this problem, here's where it happens, here's why it's a problem, and here's some ways that you could do better. And then if the issue is reoccurring throughout the essay, like a more systemic type of issue with the essay, say topic sentences, or sometimes things are worded vaguely that could be more specific, or evidence is glossed over without being thoroughly explained, you want to point to one or two specific examples of this happening to illustrate the issue, and then offer suggestions for improvement. The more concrete your feedback is, the more useful it is for your peer. I know it can feel uncomfortable because you're all nice people and you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but you have to provide constructive criticism or the peer review won't be useful to your peer. I saw a lot of, you did this great, you did this great, I liked this, but there was a lot less of here's what could be improved on, and that's the sort of meat of what peer review is for. Of course, the keyword here, right, is constructive. You want to identify areas for improvement, and you want to do it kindly. You don't want to just be like, this part of your essay sucks, and then offer nothing else. The purpose of peer review is to help your classmate improve their essay by providing a fresh set of eyes for it. And the kindest thing, really, that you can do is to offer as much actionable feedback for improvement as you can. I know it might feel awkward at first, but really don't feel bad about giving feedback. It is not a personal attack on your peer. And likewise, you don't need to feel bad that you're getting feedback from others, because it is not a personal attack on you. I know that criticism can sting at first, but you want to sit with it and let it sink in and sort of push past that initial human reaction to criticism. Writing, like any sport or activity, takes practice and constructive criticism from others. So, how do we read a paper for peer response? To write a helpful response, you should first read the draft twice. In your first reading, you want to consider the draft as a whole, its main idea and purpose, the what. So, like, what is this essay saying? And then in your second reading, you want to shift from asking, what is the writer's main idea, to how is that writer delivering that main idea, by focusing on the following areas and asking these critical questions. Rhetorical opportunity. Does the paper or project meet the assignment? So in this case, does this essay meet what the rhetorical analysis assignment is asking you to do? And then, is there a clear reason for this writer to pursue this specific argument? Have they made it clear why they're arguing this and what is prompting them to do so? And then you want to think about audience. So who is the audience and what does the writer assume the audience to know or believe? So things like context, right, that they're providing, like what can they reasonably expect their audience to already know about the context around the text they're analyzing, and then what things might they need to explain for the reader. And then you want to think about the thesis and the focus of the essay. So what exactly is the main claim, and are there clear supporting good reasons supporting this claim? Can the writer better focus the thesis and the supporting good reasons? And are there areas in the essay that the writer wanders off, or are there areas where the point of the information could be clearer? And then you want to think about the development of the essay and the good reasons behind it. So are the main points adequately developed? Are there sections that lack key information or evidence? And then, like, where do you want more, basically? And then you want to think about the organization. So is the arrangement intentional and purposeful? And can you suggest something better or identify paragraphs that are out of place? And then you want to think about, finally, the framing of it. So can the writer improve the title, the introduction, or the conclusion in any? So now we're going to talk about how your response should be structured. So in our case, right, there are specific questions that you're responding to. But you want to make sure that you're focusing on areas for improvement as well as strengths, right? So I saw a lot of great, kind pointing out of strengths of essays, and that's great to see that sort of support. But your peer is not going to benefit as much from the peer review if you don't tell them what they could do better, right? So the areas for improvement, what would most improve the draft in a revision, and you want to point out specific things, and you want to provide actionable feedback. So what do you do with peer response once you've received it? How do you deal with that feedback? If you don't agree with a peer response, first you want to try not to dismiss it right away. You want to think about why your peer would give you that feedback. And is it because they misunderstood your writing? If so, is there something that you can do to clarify your writing? A lot of times, you don't realize that your writing isn't clear. This happens to me too. This is actually one of the biggest pieces of feedback I get on my writing, is that I'm not explaining things enough. Things seem obvious to you because they're your thoughts, and you don't realize that there are connections that need to be made for the reader. And that's another benefit of peer review, is you can see where you're not clarifying things and where you might have stumbled into that pitfall. And then you want to think about whether maybe you're confused about the feedback that you got, and if so, you can reach out to your peer kindly and ask them to explain what they mean. And then, but finally, you also want to remember that you are the author and you have the right to include and exclude suggestions from others. You can pick and choose what peer review feedback you want to incorporate, but you want to be open to that feedback before you make those decisions. So overall, the main thing that I want to drive home for you is to be specific in your responses, especially in areas of improvement, and also you need to point out areas of improvement or nobody's going to benefit from the peer review. All right. So I also wanted to talk to you briefly. About writing emails. Obviously, this is an online course, and I assume a lot of you are going to be in online courses in the fall too, just with everything that's going on. So there's going to be probably a lot more emailing than you would have normally if you were just in like a regular in-person class. This is the type of thing that people are going to expect you, like instructors and colleagues are going to expect you to know how to do, but nobody's going to tell you how to do it, which is very frustrating. So I am here, a hero, to tell you how to write emails, because sometimes you can make a bad impression without even meaning to, just by writing the email, and nobody's ever going to tell you that you made that impression. So there are 5 main parts to an email. First, there's the subject line, then the greeting, the body of the email, the sign-off, and then your name. So the subject line, you just want to say, here's what this email is about. If it's a question about assignment, say question about rhetorical analysis. If you maybe missed an assignment, say missing assignment, etc. You just say, like, here's what this email is about, just quick to the point. All right, so greetings. Some possible greetings. You can say, dear, name. Hello, name. Well, I'll just put my name in. Sorry. Dear Ms. Parker. Hello, Ms. Parker. Good morning, Ms. Parker, obviously if it's the morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. My favorite, it's sort of fallen out of fashion, is most honorable Ms. Parker. All right. So in the body of your email, you want to make sure you're respectful. You want to make sure that you're not making demands on the person that you're writing the email to. Remember your pleases and your thank yous. And then, so some sign-offs. Sincerely, best wishes. I use best. Yours, thank you. And then these are some that I'm trying to bring back. I have the honor to be, I am, and then you put your relationship to the email recipient. So like I would be like, I am your instructor, Chelsea Parker. And then you can also do, I have the honor, etc. So like an ampersand and then a C. That's a classic. Or I am ampersand C. And then you sign your name. All right, so modes of address, this is like what you call your professor, right? So I've told you, please call me Ms. Parker or Chelsea. You might have instructors that don't want you to call them by their first name. In general, until they tell you, you want to err on the side of formality. If you're emailing a professor, either address them as doctor or professor unless they expressly ask you to call them something else. Instructors, like me, I'm a graduate instructor. I'm not a professor. I am very aware of this because professor actually like means something. I don't have a doctorate degree. And I'm very aware of this, and other instructors will tell you how to address us, which I've done. And if you're not sure if someone is an instructor or a professor, I would just call them professor. Just, again, err on the side of formality. All right, what not to do. Do not write an email like you're texting your friend. Do not address someone by their first name until they've told you expressly that it is okay or preferred that you do so. Do not use hey as a greeting. It's too informal. Do not leave out a greeting altogether. Unless it's urgent, do not email professors or instructors over the weekend or after business hours. I won't respond to emails that I receive after 6 p.m. I'll respond to them the next day. And then also, you want to make sure that when you're emailing a professor or an instructor, that you're not asking that, like, you want to make sure that you've tried to figure things out on your own first. Emailing your instructor should not be your first recourse when you have a question. If you have a question about Canvas, there are a lot of tutorials, and like there's a whole help section on Canvas where you can find out how to use Canvas. Google things. Just try to find the information somewhere else before you email your instructor. Think of it as a almost last resort rather than the first thing you do if you have a question. This is somewhat on me for saying email me if you have any questions. So I'm sorry for that. That obviously made it seem like you should email me if you have any questions. So I apologize for that. But yeah, you want to try to figure things out yourself first. Obviously, of course, if you can't figure things out yourself, you shouldn't hesitate to contact your instructor. You just want to make sure that you're not doing that as your first move. Finally, this is something that I try to clarify early on. I have a note on addressing me, and that you can also expand this out and apply it to other instructors that are women and to women in general. So things that you can call me: Chelsea, Ms. Parker, Gradekeeper Parker, Chelsea Maureen Joan Ty Parker, two-time award winner Chelsea Parker, my personal hero Chelsea Parker, graduate instructor Parker, or comrade Parker. So really there's a lot of options, but do not call me Mrs. Parker. This is just a pet peeve of mine. I expressly asked to be called Ms. Parker, and then to be called Mrs. Parker has just like sexist undertones that I know are not intended, and it can be just as easy as a spelling error, but I really do not like it. All right, so I'm gonna try to post these video lectures as much as I can. They take a little while to edit, but I actually have a lot of fun editing them, so it's fine. Remember, your papers are due tomorrow. If you haven't completed your assigned peer review, please do that ASAP. And I know I just assigned I graded the peer reviews that I have received, and if you are unhappy with your grade or would like your further explanation of why you received the grade that you did, I would like you to sit with the grade for 24 hours and think about it before reaching out to me about it, and then I'll be happy to explain over email or in a Zoom meeting that we can set up. All right. Have a great Monday.